Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to a special Monday edition of the Watchman Newscast. I hope everyone had a great and restful weekend as we gear up for what promises to be yet another eventful week here in the United States, where I'm coming to you from, but also in the Middle East, the world's most chaotic and pivotal region. We've got some major developments for you on that front. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just announced that the United States, before President Trump leaves office, will officially designate Yemen's Houthi rebels as a foreign terrorist organization, or FTO. Now, who are the Houthis? What do they believe? Why should you care about this seemingly obscure group in a backwater of the Middle East like Yemen? Here's a hint. Iran. We'll break it down for you in a minute. Before we get into it, I just want to encourage you to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, we're bringing you this breaking news for such a time as this and making sense of the world's most complicated region, the Middle East. So let's get into it. The Houthis are about to be designated as a foreign terrorist organization. You've heard me talk about them a good deal over the past few weeks right here on the newscast. According to Secretary Pompeo, January 19th, 2021, that's the day before President Trump leaves office, that will be the day where this designation against the Houthi rebels kick in. You might be saying, okay, Stakelbeck, the Houthis, funny name. Who are these people? Why should I care? So, the Houthis, first and foremost, are an Iranian proxy, which means they are funded, sponsored, armed, and supported by the Iranian regime, much like Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, much like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, much like the various radical Shia militias in Iraq. The Houthis are part of that chain. They are part of Iran's tentacles stretching throughout the region. Now, their ideology, again, similar to the Iranian regime, a radical Shia movement that despises Israel and the United States and the West in general, violently wants to seize power, believes that a great day of reckoning is coming when the Islamic Messiah or the Mahdi will return to earth. This is what they believe. It's not very moderate, to say the least. But that is their ideology. But how did they come into power in Yemen, or at least come to control a great deal of power and territory in Yemen and gain the attention of the United States and the world? Rewind to 2014, a major civil war, another conflict broke out in Yemen. It's been the scene of many internal conflicts and battles over the past several decades, a major civil war in the late 1980s before North and South Yemen were united in 1990. Now, Yemen straddles the Red Sea. It borders the Red Sea. Also, Saudi Arabia borders Yemen to the north, a place which is very impoverished, the most impoverished nation in the entire Middle East. And since that civil war broke out in 2014, where the Houthis essentially came roaring out of the desert, they seized the Yemeni capital of Sana'a. They marched on Yemen's largest city of Aden along the Red Sea coast. They have gained a great deal of power. Again, they control large areas of Yemen now, really the majority of the country, especially in northern Yemen, which borders Saudi Arabia. The Saudis have responded, along with some other Sunni Arab nations, including the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. They have put together a coalition. They've carried out major airstrikes over the past 5 years or so, which have caused a lot of civilian casualties in Yemen as well. It's a very controversial situation there where the Saudis, the UAE, are trying to root out the Iran-backed Houthis who pose a danger to the region, but their tactics have been heavy-handed, and many in the international community have not been too happy about it. So that situation continues to unfold, but the Houthis in the areas they control have basically had an iron fist. And again, they are transporting that radical Iranian revolution ideology to Yemen. In real time, how has this played out? Well, there's big concerns that Yemen would try to plant mines in the Red Sea, or I'm sorry, not Yemen, but the Houthi rebels in Yemen would try to plant mines in the Red Sea and attack shipping that comes through the Red Sea. Now, naturally, folks, the Red Sea is a very crucial and vital waterway. We've had situations just a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact, where a Saudi vessel was struck by an explosion in the Red Sea. They didn't specifically finger the Houthis as the culprits, but that is the belief. And the Houthis over the past few years, on several occasions, have launched rockets and missiles from Yemen into Saudi Arabia. I think the foremost Houthi attack was back in September 2019. And again, we've talked about this here in the newscast. That major attack on a Saudi oil processing facility, September 2019, a really unprecedented attack, which involved missiles and drones striking that oil processing facility, which affected the world's oil supply, at least for a short time, which could be a dangerous harbinger of things to come. The Saudis are saying that the Houthis out of Yemen were involved in that attack. So especially in the use of drones. So they're becoming a serious player. In many ways, it's been kind of a rudimentary organization, and Yemen is somewhat of a backwater, obviously, the most impoverished place in the Middle East again. But with Iranian backing, sponsorship, training, and support, the Houthis have become a major, major problem. Again, Yemen sits along the Red Sea, and a lot of shipping, including Western shipping, moves through that waterway. If the Houthis decide to mine or launch rockets, missiles at vessels traveling through the Red Sea or carry out terror attacks against vessels in the Red Sea, folks, we have a major problem, and it is a distinct possibility they are marching to the orders, to the drumbeat of their Iranian masters. And if Iran says, hey, stir things up, the Houthis are going to do it. Now, as a result of this conflict that's been going on now for about 6 years, there is a serious starvation problem. It's a hellish situation in Yemen right now. And the concern among the UN and some humanitarian organizations is that it will only deepen the humanitarian crisis there if the Houthis are designated by the United States as a foreign terrorist organization. Secretary Pompeo said, hey, we will work around that. Yes, we are going to designate the Houthis. And what does that mean, you might ask? Okay, we are designating them as a foreign terrorist organization. If you're in the United States, our government is designating them as an FTO. What does it mean? It basically isolates them, or attempts to isolate them, the Houthis, and restrict them from receiving funding, weapons, supplies, and support from the likes of Iran or, say, Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it really kind of cracks or tightens the vise around them, I guess you would say. And the problem that humanitarian organizations are pointing out is, well, does a lot of this aid go through the Houthis? And what if the Houthis just decide to hold on to any food or medical assistance that comes into Yemen and not give it to the people? That was going on before the United States announced it would designate the Houthis, and it will probably go on afterwards, I'm sad to say. And this happens in nations which are controlled by or which have large terror presences. Many times, these terror organizations, these radical regimes, international aid flows into these nations or these areas, and the bad guys take it. And it doesn't get to the people. I think of Hamas in Gaza, which uses these billions, a good chunk of these billions of dollars in international aid to buy rockets and missiles, to build weapons, to dig terror tunnels into Israel. So, to give you an idea, we laid out, obviously, the Red Sea threat, the threat to Saudi oil, which, like it or not, is a major factor still, obviously, in the global economy. But think about this. We reported here in the newscast last week, and you can check it out in our archives. Israel just moved an Iron Dome missile defense battery to the southernmost city in Israel, Eilat, which is kind of at the mouth of the Red Sea, the northern mouth of the Red Sea. They positioned it there specifically because there is a serious concern that the Houthis may try to launch rockets, missiles, or drones out of Yemen at Israel. Now, Israel Defense Forces officials have commented on this a few times over the past 2 or 3 weeks, saying we have a big concern in the wake of the anniversary of the death of Qasem Soleimani, the terror master, in the wake of the death of Iran, the father of Iran's nuclear bomb, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, in late November, and Iran's vows of revenge, Israel says we have a big concern right now, not only about retaliation coming out of the traditional Iranian proxy hotbeds like Gaza, like southern Lebanon, like Syria, but also Iraq and Yemen. And I'm telling you, folks, that the Houthis are increasingly becoming a pivotal part of Iran's regional strategy, not only with that kind of dangling the possibility of Red Sea attacks against shipping, but also striking Israel from Yemen, and essentially opening up a new southern front, kind of a southeastern front against Israel. So I think it was very wise for the United States to designate the Houthis in Yemen for that reason. Number one, it's a blow against the Iranian regime. It sends a message to the Iranian regime. We know what you are doing. Number two, hopefully it weakens the Houthis. And number three, and perhaps most crucially right now, it kind of lays down the gauntlet for the Biden administration incoming on January 20th and says, hey, look, Iran, the Trump administration has made serious moves against Iran, pushed Iran's advances back, held the Iranian regime accountable. This is one more way of doing it, to hold Iran's proxies like the Houthis accountable. So I think it's no coincidence the day before the president leaves office, President Trump, that the United States will reportedly make this official and designate the Houthis. Hopefully, the Biden administration says, hey, let's not let up. Let's keep the pressure on because it's having an effect. Sanctions from the Trump administration have severely weakened and crippled the Iranian economy. Obviously, Soleimani gone, Fakhrizadeh gone. Not United States fingerprints on Fakhrizadeh's death, but certainly the approval of the United States, I would imagine, behind the scenes, not shedding tears about the death of the father of Iran's nuclear bomb. Also, the sabotage campaign over the summer against Iran's nuclear facilities, its ballistic missile factories. 2020, again, was a very difficult year for the Iranian regime, thanks in large part to Trump administration pressure. And the hope is, the prayer is that a Biden administration would keep that up. But folks, as we wrap, I have to tell you, I'm not so optimistic about that. By the way, a quick report just came over the wire that the Houthi rebels have responded. Their leadership, 3 of their top leaders as well, will be designated as specially designated foreign global terrorist by the State Department, in addition to the organization as a whole. But they are responding. They don't like it, obviously, and they're saying, hey, we have the right to respond to any foreign terrorist designation by the United States. Could that be construed as a threat? I think so. So it's a situation that bears watching when this kicks in on January 19th. But my fear is, as we let you go here, that a Biden administration is going to take a massive step back in all the wrong ways when it comes to Iran. Biden has already expressed his desire to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. Remember, he was the vice president under President Obama when the U.S. entered that deal in July 2015. To my mind, one of the most disastrous foreign policy decisions in American history. I do not say that lightly. Quick thing to leave you with. Henry Kissinger, kind of a controversial figure, former U.S. Secretary of State during the 1970s. He said today, and I have to agree with him here, that re-entering the Iran nuclear deal will spark a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, without a doubt. We've talked about this on previous newscasts, that Iran is very close to acquiring the bomb. They're enriching more and more uranium now, and in the process breaking that Iran nuclear deal. But if the U.S. re-enters that deal, it guarantees that Iran will eventually have the bomb. And if Iran breaks out and gets the bomb, or they're on the path to the bomb, everyone in the region is going to want nuclear weapons. How do you like that thought? The world's most chaotic, most volatile region in the grips of a nuclear arms race. Not a very comforting thought, because if Iran gets the bomb, or it looks like they're on the path to getting the bomb, as a result of this Iran nuclear deal, which is toothless, you'll see the Saudis, you'll see Egypt, you'll see Turkey, all kind of giving new thought to getting the bomb themselves. Kind of a nightmare scenario. So let's pray that the next administration has common sense when it comes to this, but I'm not too optimistic right now. So stay tuned. Hey, thanks for joining us here on the newscast. More updates to come this week. We will keep you posted on anything coming out of Yemen with this Houthi designation. I think at first glance, people say, well, big deal, Yemen, who cares? I can't find Yemen on a map. But as I just laid out, this is a big deal, and it's very important, especially the timing coming at the end of the Trump administration, number one, but number two, as tensions between the U.S. and Israel and the Sunni Arab nations on one side and Iran and its proxies like the Houthis on the other continue to ramp up. So, hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again here tomorrow. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.